I learned that song like 2 days before I performed it live. Oh my gosh, and I about puked every time I performed on the show. It was just...
You think we'll see my star there? That question, posed with both hope and hesitation, marked the beginning of one of the most extraordinary journeys in talent show history. A journey that not only captivated millions, but also reshaped how we see ventriloquism in modern entertainment. The name Darci Lynne might instantly bring back flashes of standing ovations, golden confetti, and a tiny girl with a bunny puppet named Petunia stealing the entire show on America's Got Talent. But while the world remembers the cheers and the viral videos, few realize the deeper story behind her rise. When Darci stepped onto that stage, she didn't just perform. She resurrected a forgotten art form, made an audience believe in magic again, and did it all while barely a teenager. Yet as quickly as she rose to fame, her name seemed to vanish from mainstream headlines, leaving behind a question that still lingers. Whatever happened to Darci Lynne? And more importantly, why did a performer with so much promise, so much raw and undeniable talent, seem to drift from the spotlight she once commanded with such force? Today, we peel back the glittering layers and explore not just what the cameras showed, but what they didn't. From her earliest days in Oklahoma to a life-changing talent show audition, from national tours to unexpected dangers behind the scenes, Darci's story isn't just about fame. It's about pressure, reinvention, and the cost of childhood stardom. This isn't the tale of a one-hit wonder. It's the unfolding legacy of a girl who brought puppets back to prime time and who may still have more to say. Because if you think her star faded, think again. Behind every standing ovation was a moment you didn't see. Behind every viral clip was a truth no one told. And behind every puppet was a little girl who was never pretending. She was living her dream. So the question isn't whether we'll see her star there. The real question is, how could we ever forget it? Before the confetti, before the headlines, and before the thunderous applause, there was just a little girl in Oklahoma who could barely speak in front of a crowd without her voice trembling. Darci Lynne Farmer wasn't born a star. In fact, she was the kind of child who would hide behind her mother's leg at family events, paralyzed by her own shyness. But somewhere deep inside, beyond the soft-spoken words and the timid glances, was a burning desire to sing, to express, and to connect. Her parents, Clark and Misty Farmer, noticed this passion and tried everything they could to help her overcome her fears. It wasn't until 2014 when Darci attended the International Cinderella Scholarship Program that something finally clicked. There, she met Lisa Bonaquisti, a teenage beauty queen with an unexpected talent for ventriloquism. As Lisa brought her puppet to life on stage, Darci watched in awe, mesmerized by the idea that you could speak through a character without ever moving your lips. That moment changed everything. Suddenly, Darci saw a way to express herself without being exposed, to perform without fully stepping into the spotlight. It was freedom with strings, literally. Within just 1 month, she threw herself into ventriloquism with a focus and hunger that shocked everyone around her. She wasn't just playing with puppets, she was unlocking her own voice through them. And the transformation was instant. In her very first talent competition, Edmonds Got Talent, she not only competed, but walked away with first place. That win marked the start of something much bigger than anyone, including Darci, could have anticipated. What began as a shy girl's coping mechanism was quickly becoming a powerful tool, not just for performance, but for empowerment. Her secret weapon wasn't just Petunia or Oscar. It was her ability to mask vulnerability with skill, to hide fear behind a smile stitched into fabric. What started as a whisper was now inching closer to a roar, and the world hadn't even begun to notice. But it soon would. Long before the world watched her dazzle on national television, Darci Lynne was already stacking up trophies and earning the respect of professionals who saw something rare in her. Something not just precocious, but prodigious. After her stunning debut at Edmonds Got Talent, she caught the eye of renowned ventriloquism coach Gary Owen, who didn't just offer mentorship. He saw in Darci a future icon. With Owen by her side as coach and business manager, and vocal lessons from acclaimed instructor Tiana Plemons, sharpening her natural voice, Darci began to evolve with stunning speed. This wasn't just a hobby anymore, it was a mission. In 2015 alone, she swept through competitions across Oklahoma like a rising storm. First place in the junior division of Oklahoma's Got Talent, top prize at Oklahoma Kids, and then an eye-popping performance at American Kids in Branson, Missouri, where she dominated multiple categories, including Broadway, specialty acts, and the coveted title of Entertainer of the Year. While most girls her age were worrying about middle school lockers and sleepovers, Darci was building a professional resume that rivaled full-grown entertainers. Yet, despite her growing fame in talent circuits, she remained grounded, attending Deer Creek Middle School and trying to live as normal a life as possible. But even that was short-lived. Her skyrocketing schedule forced her into homeschooling by 8th grade. Still, she made headlines when she missed the first day of 7th grade, not for illness or vacation, but because she was performing live on America's Got Talent. These early wins formed the backbone of a performer in the making, a girl too young to drive, but already managing stage cues, rehearsals, and press attention like a seasoned pro. And while much of the public first met Darci on AGT, those in her hometown knew the truth. By the time she hit the national stage, she was no overnight success. She was a quiet force that had been building, sharpening, and winning, long before the cameras ever started rolling. It was May 30th, 2017, the first episode of Season 12 of America's Got Talent, and an unassuming 12-year-old girl with a bow in her hair walked onto the stage carrying a puppet named Petunia. The judges smiled politely, the audience murmured with mild curiosity, and no one, not even Darci herself, could have predicted that the next few minutes would become a defining moment in AGT history. With Petunia cradled in her arms, Darci launched into Summertime from Porgy and Bess, and what followed wasn't just impressive, it was electric. Her voice soared with jaw-dropping power and control, while her lips stayed perfectly still. Petunia came alive with attitude and soul, but it was Darci's poise, her comedic timing, and the sheer unexpectedness of it all that made jaws drop around the globe. Judge Mel B was so stunned she didn't hesitate. She hit the golden buzzer without a word, launching Darci straight into the quarterfinals in a confetti-filled moment that would be replayed millions of times. In fact, the performance didn't just go viral, it obliterated records. Within just 30 hours of being uploaded, it became the most watched video in AGT history at that time. By the end of the year, it ranked as YouTube's 4th most trending video of 2017. But what made it so iconic wasn't just the singing or the skill, it was the shock. Audiences around the world couldn't believe that this small, shy girl had such command, and they instantly connected to the authenticity of her performance. She wasn't polished by Hollywood. She wasn't backed by an industry machine. She was real. A real girl with a real gift. That night didn't just make Darci a star. It reignited America's love for ventriloquism, sparked an emotional wildfire, and placed her in a rare class of performers who transcend the show they debut on. And as the golden confetti settled, one thing was clear. This wasn't just another contestant. This was a cultural phenomenon in the making, and the world couldn't wait to see what she'd do next. After that golden buzzer moment, Darci Lynne wasn't just a contestant anymore. She was the one to beat, and week after week, she proved why. In the quarterfinals, she returned with Oscar, a nervous mouse puppet with a big voice, delivering a soulful rendition of Who's Lovin' You that brought the house down. Then came the semifinals, where she introduced the world to Edna Doorknocker, an elderly, feisty puppet obsessed with Judge Simon Cowell. With Edna, Darci belted out, "You make me feel like a natural woman," seamlessly blending comedy, character, and vocal control in a performance that left both the audience and judges stunned once again. Each act wasn't just a repetition, it was an evolution. Darci wasn't just performing songs with puppets. She was crafting mini theatrical masterpieces, complete with narrative, humor, and vocal power. By the time the finals arrived, she pushed the boundaries even further, bringing back both Petunia and Oscar for a dazzling performance of With a Little Help from My Friends. The technical difficulty of juggling multiple puppets and voices live on stage would be unthinkable for most. Yet Darci handled it with the grace and ease of a seasoned professional. And then came the finale, a duet with her idol, AGT Season 2 winner Terry Fader. Together, they performed Anything You Can Do, and the chemistry between them was undeniable. The moment was symbolic. Fader had once revived ventriloquism on AGT, and now he was. Darci Lynne's victory on America's Got Talent wasn't just a confetti-filled fairy tale ending. It was the beginning of an entirely new reality, one that rocketed her from the quiet neighborhoods of Edmond, Oklahoma, into the blinding spotlight of national celebrity. Within months of her win, Darci found herself performing on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, appearing in Jeff Dunham's Halloween special, and joining Terry Fade Alive on stage, all while juggling a workload that would exhaust even the most seasoned performers. And then came the announcement that changed everything. Her first national tour, Darci Lynne and Friends Live. What began as a modest 5-city run exploded into a 52-stop whirlwind across the country, selling out venues in record time. Her homecoming show in Oklahoma City sold out in just 6 minutes, prompting additional performances to meet the overwhelming demand. Suddenly, Darci was no longer just a performer. She was a brand, a touring sensation, and a role model to a generation. But behind the glowing headlines and roaring applause, a much heavier truth lingered. Darci was still just a teenager. While her peers were navigating middle school dances and sleepovers, she was memorizing set lists, rehearsing puppet transitions, and enduring the endless cycle of interviews, sound checks, and stage makeup. Even homeschooling couldn't shelter her from the pressures that came with such rapid fame. The public adored her, the media couldn't get enough, and every performance was expected to top the last. What no one saw were the sleepless nights, the homesickness, the strain of having to be on all the time, and the invisible weight of expectations placed on her small shoulders. Fame had turned her into a household name, but it also robbed her of a normal childhood. There were no roadmaps for a ventriloquist prodigy at 13. Every step forward was a balancing act between public persona and personal identity. Yet despite the chaos, Darci never lost her composure. She smiled through the pressure, charmed through the exhaustion, and gave fans exactly what they came for. But deep down, even as the tour buses rolled and the curtains rose, one question remained. How long could she keep going at this pace before something cracked? For most fans, Darci Lynne was a beacon of joy, a teenager who brought smiles, laughter, and a touch of magic into their living rooms. But as her popularity soared, so did the dangers that often accompany sudden fame, especially for young stars in the digital age. In 2019, Darci and her family were confronted with a nightmare scenario that pulled back the curtain on the dark side of celebrity. A man named Jose Riba, a French national, entered the United States with one goal: to find Darci. His obsession escalated quickly. Just days after she performed at the Riverwind Casino in Norman, Oklahoma, Riba was spotted by Darci and her parents in the audience, taking photos, watching intently. He later approached security in their neighborhood, begging for just 10 minutes to meet the family. When denied, he didn't give up. The very next day, he brazenly showed up at their church, cornering Darci's mother and demanding to speak with the young performer. This wasn't just a fan crossing a line. It was a full-blown security threat. According to police, Riba had purchased Darci's private information online, including her home address and phone numbers. Even more disturbing, he admitted to losing over $10,000 to online scammers pretending to be Darci. Revelation that exposed just how deeply his fixation had consumed him. For 2 weeks leading up to his appearance, the family had been receiving repeated, anonymous phone calls from a French number, now confirmed to be Riba himself. The fear, the unease, and the sudden realization that their safety had been compromised shook them to their core. A protective order was filed immediately. But even that couldn't erase the trauma of knowing that fame, once a dream come true, had opened the door to very real danger. The incident wasn't just a cautionary tale. It was a wake-up call. In an era where every tweet, post, and public appearance becomes data for strangers to obsess over, Darci's experience stands as a chilling reminder that behind the lights and laughter, child stars face very adult threats. And in Darci's case, the line between admiration and obsession had been crossed in the most terrifying way possible. Despite the dangers and demands that came with her rapid rise, Darci Lynne refused to be boxed in by a single narrative. She wasn't content to be remembered only as the sweet girl with puppets. She was determined to evolve, to explore, and to prove that her talent extended far beyond the ventriloquism stage. In January 2019, she made a bold return to competition in America's Got Talent, The Champions, performing a high-energy medley of Nutbush City Limits and Proud Mary with Oscar. Although she didn't make it to the final round that time, her presence reignited her fan base and reminded the world why she had become such a beloved figure. She returned as a wild card, this time performing the operatic classic O Mio Babino Caro with Petunia, an emotionally powerful act that stunned the judges. She ultimately finished in second place behind magician Shin Lim, but by then it was clear Darci wasn't fading. She was just getting started. Her Fresh Out of the Box tour in 2019 showcased her growing maturity as a performer, blending comedy, music, and storytelling in fresh new ways. She became a voice for young girls during the Barbie Be Anything tour and used her platform at We Day events to encourage youth activism. But it wasn't just live performances. Darci started planting roots in television too. She made appearances on Pickler and Ben, The Kelly Clarkson Show, and starred in All That on Nickelodeon. She voiced animated characters, joined the panel of Nickelodeon's Unfiltered, and even stepped into the world of scripted acting with a role in the 2022 film A Cowgirl Song. All of this marked a clear shift. Darci wasn't relying solely on her AGT fame. She was building something bigger, a multifaceted entertainment career defined by range, courage, and reinvention. Her appearance on AGT's 17th season during Simon Cowell's countdown of all-time favorite golden buzzer moments cemented her legacy, with her audition ranked number 2 of all time. And still, she kept pushing forward. During AGT Fantasy League, she performed a unique act where she played the guitar live while Petunia moved independently. A bold, creative move that showcased her technical growth and risk-taking spirit. She even performed solo during the semifinals, proving she didn't need a puppet to hold an audience in awe. That night, Simon Cowell himself acknowledged her evolution, noting how far she'd come not just as a ventriloquist, but as an artist. Darci wasn't just growing up, she was leveling up, and every new step confirmed she wasn't a one-season wonder. She was becoming an icon in her own right. Long before Darci Lynne lit up the AGT stage, ventriloquism was a novelty act struggling to stay relevant. A charming throwback often associated with smoky lounges, vaudeville nostalgia, or the rare Vegas headliner. But when a 12-year-old girl from Oklahoma stepped into the spotlight with nothing but a puppet and a dream, she single-handedly changed the narrative. Darci didn't just entertain, she made ventriloquism cool again. She brought humor, heart, and soul into her performances in a way that transcended the art form's outdated stereotypes. Critics, peers, and audiences alike took notice. AGT legend Terry Fader, the very man who had once revived the craft in the modern era, hailed Darci as one of the most talented ventriloquists he had ever seen, calling her performances unbelievably perfect, especially for someone so young. He emphasized that even at 12, her skills were polished to a level he hadn't seen in decades, and she would only improve from there. Jay Johnson, another ventriloquism veteran, was just as stunned. He said Darci's ability was so refined that even without her puppets, she could be a star in her own right. Sammy King, a revered figure in the ventriloquist community, praised her comedic timing, vocal control, and natural charisma, stating she was born for the stage. These weren't throwaway compliments. They were industry validations of a generational talent. But the most visible and emotional tribute came from her own hometown. In August 2020, the Edmond Historical Society and Museum unveiled a permanent exhibit titled Darci Lynne's Got Talent, chronicling her meteoric rise from local prodigy to international phenomenon. The display included her original practice puppets, iconic costumes, tour posters, and even scripts from her performances. A museum-level dedication usually reserved for decades-old legends, not teenagers. It wasn't just an honor, it was a statement. Darci Lynne wasn't simply successful, she was historic. Her influence inspired a new wave of young performers to pick up puppets, enroll in voice lessons, and try something daring. In talent shows across the country, ventriloquism saw a resurgence, and Darci was the undeniable reason why. She didn't just revive a forgotten art, she reinvented it for a new generation. And while critics may debate trends,